Hey, what's up? John Sonmez here from SimpleProgrammer.com. I got a question, an email, a lot of statements, a couple of things to address here from a frequent commenter and huge supporter of the channel. So I want to thank you, Brian. I won't say last name just in case that he wants to remain anonymous here, but thank you very much, Brian. I appreciate all of you that are big supporters of the channel and leave a lot of positive, encouraging comments on the channel. It encourages other people, and I appreciate it, right? So got this email, and it says, "Hi SP, I hope this note finds you well." Actually, I hope it just finds you, haha. You are the ultimate get-a-ton-done man, not sounding like a schmoozer, a flatterer, or gay, all right? I'm serious. Who gets more done than you, John Sonmez, maybe Grant Cardone, or Kobe Bryant? Okay, I'll agree with that, and he says, I doubt it. Anyway, my question is, what about Robin Sharma's 5 a.m. club? There are quite a few other, quote, coaches who preach 5 a.m. for success, so I'm wrestling with guilt because it's very difficult for me to wake up that early. I'm trying to gradually train myself to get up earlier, but when I do, then I eventually crash and had to start over gradually, setting the alarm clock earlier each day. This question is not likely as urgent as many of the good questions you get. No, I'm not apologizing for asking this question, but I still appreciate and value your thoughts if you have time.
Tired of pushy recruiters sending you LinkedIn requests for jobs you have no interest in? Tired of blasting out resumes into the dark? If so, you should check out Hired.com. Hired.com flips job searching on its head by having top employers like Facebook come to you after you fill out one simple application. You also get your own job coach to help you on your next job search. If you haven't checked it out, I highly recommend you at least fill out the application. Just go to Hired.com/simpleprogrammer, and when you get hired with Hired, you'll get double the normal sign-on bonus for using that link.
So he also goes on to say, by the way, I'm not questioning your sleep schedule, and yes, I just watched your latest video. So I did this video on sleeping and falling asleep. I think the one he's talking about in the afternoon, and I gave some advice on that. And he says, it sounds like you get up between 7 and 8 a.m., which works for you. I'm just wondering what your thoughts are, because my guru on Robin Sharma's club, again, not apologizing, but I'm going to sneak in another question. So I'll kind of address both of these, because I think this is actually pretty relevant here. He says, also, what about The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod? So you can check out that book, Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod. This excellent YouTube video is Miracle Morning, What Millionaires Do the First Hour of Every Day by Haas Pratt Success Systems. I don't recall you talking about personally doing meditation, journaling, cold showers, education, reviewing goals and mission statement, prayer, breathing exercises, etc. But I know you do books on tape, audible.com, you do Pomodori, and also Trello. Oh, he got Pomodori right. That most people don't pluralize that correctly because it's an Italian word. It means tomato. So he says, let's see. Plus, I know you can exercise in the afternoon. Do you have morning routines? So I'm gonna just cut it here. There's a little bit more to the email, but basically there's two really good questions here. Which is, one of them is, should you get up at 5 a.m. Be part of that 5 a.m. club? I know a lot of you are interested in this. And then also, like, what about Miracle Morning? What about morning routines? Is that relevant? Does it make sense? So first of all, let's talk about the 5 a.m. thing. So the thing about getting up at 5 a.m., there's trade-offs, right? And it depends on what you're trying to do. I don't think there's anything super special about getting up at 5 a.m., but I do think that getting up early makes a lot of sense for most people, and starting your day earlier is going to give you that quiet time where you're uninterrupted, and so you're going to be able to get a lot more done without interruptions. You're going to be able to spend a lot of personal development and focus time and really prime yourself to start off the day right. A lot of people that are in the self-help, personal development industry talk about this, and people that I respect, like Tony Robbins, as a priming exercise, like starting your day off right, I think is really important. So that sort of coincides with this whole Miracle Morning thing. If you don't know what I'm talking about, again, there's a book by Hal Elrod, and I will admit I have not read that book yet. I probably will read that book, but I don't have necessarily the best feeling about Miracle Morning, about morning routines. So I've talked a little bit about my morning routine. It does vary. I don't have an exact one right now. I'm going to get back to that in a second. But I want to talk about this waking up early. So again, the waking up early, like I said, I think is good for those reasons. But here's the thing. You have to realize this, right? I've talked about in the video that I mentioned earlier about my sleep, and I'm working out, I'm lifting weights. To me, physical fitness is really important. I know that muscle development is going to require sleep, that your brain is basically releasing HGH, and a lot of the gains that you're going to get from doing lifting are going to come while you're sleeping, so you need to get that sleep. It's also important just mentally, just focus, energy levels. Like, you can't run on low sleep for a super long time. So the reason why I'm saying that is because if you wake up at 5 in the morning, but you go to bed at like midnight, you're only getting 5 hours of sleep. So you're maybe you'll get some benefit from waking up early, but you're gonna have a detriment if you're only getting 5 hours of sleep, right? You see what I'm saying? So it's gonna have to come off somewhere. So it really, in my mind, doesn't necessarily matter how much, like, you can't really cheat this so much, right? So I always say wake up an hour earlier and give that hour to yourself, because I think most of us can do that. Like, we can sacrifice 1 hour and we can have a huge benefit by working on our side project or our business, right? And that adds up over time. So that's why I say to wake up 1 hour earlier. But again, you can't really cheat the system, right? If you're trying to get 7 to 8 hours worth of sleep per night and you want to wake up at 5 a.m., well, what time are you going to have to go to bed? Okay. So for those of you that suck at math, that would be 9 p.m. That's right, 9 p.m. if you want to wake up at 5 a.m. and get 8 hours of sleep. It'll be 10 p.m. if you want to get 7 hours of sleep, right? You see what I'm saying here? So this is, you just got to take that into account. Now, do I think that you'll probably have more productive hours at the beginning of your day than at the end of the day? Yes. So if I have a preference, I would say waking up earlier is probably going to make more sense and going to bed earlier, because usually, the time that you're spending from, let's say, 9 to 12 p.m. or 1 a.m. or 2 a.m., if you're staying up to 1 a.m. or 2 a.m., I know what you're doing on the internet, okay? That's not good. So I'm just kidding. But you're probably like, your brain is halfway shut down. You're just like probably goofing off. I know some of you are hardcore coders at that time. That's different. But you set your own schedule. So there's really no magic, is what I'm saying, in this super early thing. But there could be some serious benefits. Now, I personally have started waking up about 6:30 or 6 a.m. and I find that to be valuable. But again, if I end up going to sleep at midnight, it kind of sucks, right? I'm only getting like 6 hours of sleep or so. So I try to go to bed around 10 or 11 in order to incorporate that schedule. And maybe I'll sacrifice sleep occasionally, but if I repeatedly do that, I know that I'm going to suffer in more ways than one. So sleep is really important. It's a high priority for me. It sucks. I wish I could get away with 5 hours of sleep, but I just won't get those results. So just keep that in mind if you're going to join that 5 a.m. club. That also means that you're probably joining the going to bed at 10 p.m. club. Otherwise, you're going to suffer. If you're going to bed at midnight or 1 or 2 in the morning and you're waking at 5 a.m., you might feel proud. You might be like, oh man, I'm kick ass. But you're actually going to suffer. It will actually be worse for you. So do what is going to be sustainable and make sense. Okay, now let's talk about the morning routine. Now, yes, I don't subscribe too much to the morning routine. I do some stuff. I have played with the routine. I may go back to this again. At one point, what I was doing was I was getting up at 6:30 a.m. and then I would do like my Duolingo to learn Italian, and then I would do a little bit of journaling and then reading for 15 minutes and doing meditation for like 15 or 20 minutes. And what I was finding, though, the only problem with that, right, it seemed like it was good, but the problem with that was that it was like 8 a.m. or 8:30 a.m. really before I started my day, sometimes 9 o'clock. And so now I've sort of lost that benefit. So in my mind, I think there's some benefit to having a routine, to having a little bit of a morning routine, but too much structure can hurt you, right? So I usually structure my day. If you want to see how I plan my week, you can check out that video. It's a pretty popular video And then I pretty much still do that. I do take breaks from it from time to time. But if you have way too much structure, that can be a bad thing. So I don't want to have like a super structured morning routine, day and night. Then I don't really have a life. I'm just going through the motions. Now, at certain points in your life, when you're in that, I've talked about the seasons of life and how you got to be in kick-ass mode sometime. And I've done this, right? For a couple of years when I was in bust-ass mode, working like 80-hour weeks. Having that level of structure where you don't have any social life and you're just devoting to like paying your dues so you can get out of the rat race and become financially independent or something like that, or build your business up, it may make sense to just totally structure your day. But for me, on an ongoing basis, I don't want it to be so inflexible. And I definitely don't want to have like an hour and a half worth of morning routine that I have to do, especially, when I travel and stuff like that, or things come up and interrupted. I like to have a little bit of flexibility. So I, right now, am leaning towards setting a wake-up time so that I'm starting my day at the same time, so 6:30 or 6 a.m., and then having a very flexible morning routine with a few items in there, right? I stopped doing the meditation. I'll probably start doing that again, and maybe doing the failure journal. I did this video on failure journal, which I'm going to explore a little bit more here, but I need to get back into the system. One other thing I'll say about this, okay, that I think is really important for you to understand, and just has to go with routines and being strict. I'm all about rules. I'm all about being strict. I live by rules. I believe in making plans so that you don't have to make judgment calls, because that's how you deplete your willpower. Willpower is really strong when you don't have to make judgment calls. But I will say this. If you are too damn strict, okay, if you have too many rules, if you're too structured, then compliance becomes an issue. The reason why people fail on diets is because they have to weigh and measure everything, and they're worrying about all these macros, and they're doing all this kind of crazy shit, and then what ends up happening is it just becomes too difficult to comply, so they drop the ball. So you have to have this balance, right? And sometimes you have to train yourself up to be more compliant. But if you're too damn strict, okay, if you don't have any flexibility, if you're just going to schedule like an hour and a half worth of morning routine, and it's a bunch of stuff that you have to do every day, right, and it eats into the rest of your time, and then you've got a structured day, and you've got all this stuff, if your days are like that, the compliance factor is going to be low. You're going to have a hard time, and so it's more likely that you're going to drop all the balls. So, you could think of it this way, right? Don't juggle too many balls. Okay, then you could lose them all. You got to figure out the balance, right, where that structure and that routine, and maybe your morning routine, if you have one, is benefiting you, but it's not so hard that it makes it so that it's something you dread doing and that you stop doing. Because if you stop doing something, right, then it's not going to be a benefit. Again, I talked about people about training and diet and nutrition all the time, and when I'm coaching them, I try not to make it too damn hard, right, unless they're super hardcore. Because if I tell you, if you go on a program and you're like, I'm going to fucking start running 10 miles a day every single day, well, you know what? You're probably going to drop. Maybe you'll do that for like a day or two, or maybe even a week, and then you're probably going to drop it, and you're going to drop it all together. Whereas if you did something less aggressive, right, but it was more consistent or easier for you to comply with, you would get better results because you'd be more consistent and you'd stick with it for the long run. So there's always that trade-off, and this is really the thing. If you think about, I like to talk about the higher principles, and this whole thing with waking up early, with morning routines, with all that, it's all, you can't cheat the system. So you got to figure out that balance, right? And I'll say one last thing about this whole thing, because I've coached some people on this, and I've struggled with this myself. Again, I mentioned it, is that if your morning routine is so in-depth and so long that it eats up all your time, okay, then what you're doing is you're sharpening the saw too fucking much. And if you just sharpen the saw and don't use the saw, there's no point. Personal development, self-development, I'm all about that. But I'm also about getting shit done. And sometimes, meditation is great. Taking cold showers, I guess that doesn't take extra time. That's great, right? Reading your daily Stoic quote or whatever, and spending time in silence and planning your goals and all that shit is all great. But if you don't actually get shit done, that's all sharpening the saw stuff. If you want to know what I'm talking about, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. That's where Stephen Covey talks about sharpening the saw, but you got to actually do stuff. Another video I'll point to real quick here is the 70-30 rule. I believe I did a video on this where I talk about I try to produce 70% and consume 30%. That's a good rule. If you're not there, if you're consuming 70% and only producing 30, you ain't getting enough shit done. Stop consuming so much stuff. Stop working so much in personal development and work on getting shit done. The personal development, all this stuff that you're doing, the meditation, the morning routine, all that is supposed to help you to actually get shit done. So if you're not getting shit done, all that is a waste. Does that make sense? Okay, so I hope that this is helpful to you. I wanted to really give a comprehensive answer on this because there's a lot of confusion, and I'm still figuring some of this out, right? I don't have that perfect morning routine. I'm not sure that I want to really lock myself into that because I lock myself into a lot of other stuff in order to get shit done. So if I do develop and stick with the morning routine, it's going to be light. It's going to be simple, and it's going to have some flexible options in there for when I'm traveling in different situations so that I don't fall into that trap where I'm either sharpening the saw too much or the compliance level is so hard that I drop the whole thing together and get no benefit. All right, that's all I got to say about that. Yes, it was long, but hopefully it was worth it for you. If you did find it worth it for you, you can click the subscribe button and you can get more videos like this one. If you didn't find it worth it for you, you can click the thumbs down button and you can give me the finger and never watch a video again. I'll talk to you next time. Take care. See ya.